EA's relationship with Star Wars has been questionable at best, a disaster at worst. Was this inevitable for a business that was rated the worst company in America twice? What was the results of the deal? A studio lost? Another destroyed? Governments did government stuff? Even Kinder eggs were referred to at one point. These 10 years were grim for some, a good laugh for others. But before we get into those, we have to go back. The year is 2013. A nice simple year. People log into their laptops, and wait, what's that? EA got a 10-year exclusive deal to make Star Wars games? The news spreads like wildfire, with various reactions. Some put their thumbs up in hope for optimism, whilst others run for the hills. As fate would have it, the man behind Ultimate Team, yes, that Ultimate Team,
oh my days!
becomes the CEO in September. And this man is Andrew Wilson. He sees the deal, and immediately something is concerning him. Are those licensing costs? Oh no, panic sets in. But he takes a deep breath. He looks through previous sales charts of Star Wars games, and he sees something in the corner of his eyes. Battlefront games? High player counts? Nostalgia? A recipe for success. Okay fellas, I have a plan. I know we purchased Pandemic Studios. Let's get them on some new Battlefront games. Where are they? Oh yeah, forgot about that. No problem. Let's get DICE to work on them instead. What else can we do? Yes? Lock iconic planets and characters in the season pass? My god. You have been promoted. People here DICE is making a new Battlefront. There are two reactions. Donkey reactions and normal reactions. Normal people give a thumbs up. This sounds very nice. How can they screw it up? The donkeys on the other hand break into some sort of fetus position, terrified of the possibility of a Battlefield reskin. With the benefit of hindsight, that is what it should have been. Let's rewind time.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
The year is 2003. Battlefield 1942 has been released the year prior. This humble mod appears on the Steam page. Star Wars Galactic Conquest. Sound familiar? It is essentially Star Wars in Battlefield. Pandemic Studios see this. And that is how the original Star Wars Battlefront was made. It's 2014. A trailer released. And it looked amazing. The visuals, the sound, the speeder bikes. Pure quality Star Wars. Things were looking good. Almost too good to be true. Even more information came out. Photogrammetry was going to be used. Turns out this is where half the budget went. But the result? Beautiful. It was time to increase the engines. We're going all in. Then, the dark times. Classes? Gone. Clone Wars? What's that? Space battles? Not possible. Taking off and landing your starfighter? The tech doesn't exist. Just grab a token instead. 6 heroes, 4 planets, 40 players maximum. In general, significantly less content than a game that came out in 2005. More bad news comes. No drivable AT-ATs? Just sit in the turret. But we stay on course. It's DICE, and it's Battlefront. What could go wrong? It's pre-order time, boys. Launch comes around. It's a disaster. Single player content, a core pillar of Battlefront, evaporated. It does not take long for the YouTube horde to start trashing it. The game suffers from minimal depth across all its gameplay mechanics, leaving a soft arcade experience which only looks like Star Wars, and players see something in the menu. Is that a season pass in a Battlefront game? $50 for Chewbacca, Bespin, Jabba's Palace, Lando, and the Death Star? How could they? It was clear. DICE screwed up. Okay fellas, Battlefront might not have met expectations, but Visceral have started development of Project Yuma. Any queries? Yes? Why don't we get them to work on a Battlefield Cops and Robbers? Good idea, mate. Scrap it. Battlefield Hardline fell short of expectations. That was short-lived, fellas. But the assets from Project Yuma are being converted as we speak into Project Ragtag, still under Visceral. I'm thinking third-person action game with massive set pieces, similar to Uncharted, featuring some sabotage gameplay. Turns out that it's too ambitious and costly. Visual Studios ended up being shut down in 2017, with EA's shift from single-player games to multiplayer live service games ending the project and the studio. Former CFO Blake Jorgensen comes out and says, Project Ragtag is a much more linear game that people don't like as much today as they did 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Blood is in the air, riots are in the streets, people are not happy. That didn't work out too well, but not to fear. I've got EA Vancouver picking up the pieces of the game. Scheduled release is 2000, Project Orca is cancelled. Okay, let's do this one last time. Our first Battlefront was a financial success. and so the second one should be too. We've got piles of assets ready to go. Let's make a Battlefront spin-off using these. And so the cycle continued. For the last time. Everyone relax. DICE are 1 year in and I predict no cancellation in sight. We're going all in. It was clear that the season pass did not go well last time, and after years of studying under the top bankers, I've come up with a great solution. Why not monetize the progression system? But that's not all. Why don't we make it randomized with loot boxes? It's E3 time, and lots of good news is here. All 3 eras, classes, back, space battles, returned. Boys, there's only one thing to do. It's pre-order time. The 2015 Battlefront producer, Sergelina, betrayed us to FIFA.
There is no campaign to speak of.
Do have the Star Wars Battlefront missions and
Not the biggest loss ever. Fast forward to launch. At EA's office, everyone is holding their breath for the initial reviews. They're in. Critics enjoyed it. They've done it. At last. Andrew goes to pick up a bottle of champers. Andrew peeps outside. My god. Someone noticed in the game that they couldn't play as Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker, 2 of the main characters of Star Wars. It was not long before the greatest engineers of Reddit started the equations, and the results were in. It would take 80 hours to play as these 2, or you could just pay for them. Some fell, and even supported this decision.
You do not have to buy the loot boxes, you can earn them in-game easily enough.
But there were some who resisted. A last alliance of gamers and governments marched against EA's lawyers, and in the courtrooms, fought for the freedom of people's wallets. Belgium outright bans loot boxes. Hawaii investigates them with a quote from Chris Lee, "This game is a Star Wars themed online casino."
It's a trap!
EA pushes back with comparing them to Kinder Eggs, but the damage was done. They were guilty. It was clear. The age of loot boxes is over. The time of the Battle Pass has come. DICE went to work reworking the progression system to make it an actual video game. In the meantime, content was barren. There was a Last Jedi DLC, for those who liked that movie, a 3rd Millennium Falcon, and an Ewok Hunt mode. Thus, history became legend, legend became myth, and for 8 months Star Wars Battlefront II passed out of all knowledge until E3 ensnared a new presenter. It was here the course of EA's relationship with Star Wars changed forever. Dennis Bramville took center stage and said the now infamous words.
This year, we'll be going deep into the Clone Wars.
Geonosis, General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Count Dooku. A mode featuring boarding and destroying capital ships. Looks like Star Wars Battlefront 2 is back on the menu, boys. A trailer was released, and it looks glorious. Drivable ATTEs, clone skins, bark speeders, it's all great stuff. 2019 rolls around, and the Conquest mode with 40 players and 24 bots released shortly after. And it's another slam dunk. ARC Troopers, Commando Droids, Droidicas, Clone Commandos, Obi-Wan and Anakin General skins, 5 skins, even Count Dooku gets some pajamas. And then there's Felucia, all get added throughout the year. Then the holy grail of EA Star Wars games gets released, Jedi Fallen Order, and it's great. Truly a work of art, even though that reveal was a bit on the awkward side.
It's a dark time.
It's a dark time.
Bad time.
The development studio Respawn, consisting of developers from the original Call of Duties, carefully craft each aspect of the game. The results were in. It was a smash hit. Cal Kestis overnight became an iconic Star Wars character. The gameplay was tight and energetic, with a phenomenal Order 66 sequence. Showing single player games were here to stay. Truly, fall of 2019 was a good time, and we were all eating it up. Somebody ate a bat in China, and it was spreading like wildfire. EA seized this opportunity and cut support on the financially struggling Battlefront 2 in order to work on Battlefield 2042 and call it a day. The tears were immeasurable. Ahsoka, Padme, Ventress, and Mustafa were never going to see the light of day. The Battlefront DICE employees start leaving en masse, along with the developers from the Battlefield team after Battlefield 5's disaster. DICE would never be the same again. 2042 ended up underperforming. We're 7 years in, fellas, but do not fear. EA Motive and our marketing team have learnt from Battlefront 2's campaign. We'll release what we actually advertise. and we're cooking up a pure starfighter experience. Have you ever wanted to soar around in an X-Wing? Nuke Star Destroyers? Take your cardboard box creation and make it a reality. And boy, this game makes you feel like you are the starfighter. The trailer released, and gamers see it, and end up piling on Amazon for full-on joysticks. The result? A truly immersive starfighter game, but it lacked the long-term retention of a Battlefront game, leaving Star Wars fans stranded, with no home. Okay, our exclusive license is over in a few months, but let's end it off with a bang. Jedi Survivor, a sequel to the acclaimed Jedi Fallen Order, is released on April 2023, featuring the High Republic, something many fans have been clamouring on for some years, in some non-book formats, because people struggle reading. Cal Kestis faced his greatest struggle yet, and aside from some questionable technical issues and bugs, it is revered across the board. With the release of Jedi Survivor, came the final game and the end of the EA exclusive deal. I'm sure some expected this to happen, whilst others were quite disappointed. A studio evaporated, another a shell of its former self, and worst of all, only a handful of games to even show for it.
I wish none of this had happened.